is postmodernism?
Postmodernism?
Postmodernism? Know anything about that?
No, not really.
I don't know. Not really.
Trick question. Isn't post usually what comes after?
That is a tough question. Well, according to Billy Corgan, postmodernism is whatever the you want it to be.
Postmodernism. Postmodernism is a silent idea of our age. We experience it, but do not identify it. Sometimes it affects us, sometimes we're frustrated about it, and some of us operate under it. The idea is important to understand when presenting the Venerators and then the gospel. As it relates to our subject, it's enough to say it is a rejection of dogma, principles, and practices of established modernism. Said more simply, truth is determined by the individual since it isn't knowable. Truth is not knowable in postmodernism, and it is determined by the individual. For example, here's a question. Is Obama a good president? If you think he is, you'll find information to support that idea, and this will make your case. But if you don't think he's a good president, being the opposite being true, that if you think he's a bad president, you'll find information to support your idea. Of course, this is backwards, but this is how it works. Now, there's a real answer to this, but it must be started in reverse by asking, how well has the president done his job? You would outline the job description and measure him in each category, and then sum up the analysis for your result. But the postmodern world, of course, doesn't like to look at it this way. I mean, in a rational way, with an objective truth. It rejects this. This is especially true if it contradicts their preferred truth. In the postmodern age, we have drawn some unchallenged conclusions and haven't even thought about the results, haven't thought about the assumptions. Today it is understood from the postmodern perspective that all religions are the same. They believe no one can know the truth in a religion, and that they all teach the same thing, love. They conclude that one may join a religion or not, but if one does prefer religion, they shouldn't push it as truth. Now, their idea works because of the assumption that if there is a God, he couldn't hold anyone accountable because it's not knowable. As a result, they continue with the logic that we should be good, or at least this is how I assess the philosophy of our day. We can see the motivation for accepting this idea without question. With this comes no God, no moral law, no responsibility, and no judgment. But I think we can help them with this, or at least make them feel less comfortable with the idea contained in this postmodern worldview. With the Venerators, we're exposing them, revealing the weakness in these ideas. These dangerous and ill-conceived concepts are barring them from the truth, and we want to shake their world. Let's look more closely at the assumptions and dismantle them. All religions are the same. Are all religions the same? They obviously aren't. As a challenge, ask someone to prove that they are. They can't. They can only recite sound bites, just give urban myths held by those of their tribe. But all religions carry elements of similarities and differences. Now, these differences are why religions have different names and distinguish themselves as different from others. They recognize that each is distinguished by their practices and beliefs. And oh, isn't this why they debate with one another? Would they debate without major differences? Why doesn't a Muslim call himself a Hindu? Obviously, Muslims believe there is one God. And they have the Prophet Muhammad who revealed the Quran, which lays out the activities they must perform as good Muslims. Moreover, the Hindu has many gods, and each of these gods requires different practices from one another, and certainly different from Islam. So all religions aren't the same. The next assumption is that no one can know the truth in the matter of religion. They believe no one can know which religion is right, or if any are right. But here lies a problem. If one believes truth can't be found, they won't seek it. What good would it do to start asking the question assuming there is no answer? Could you imagine any great discovery being made without intrigue or curiosity? We wouldn't have discovered medicine, physics, and modern technologies. Assuming there is no answer will ensure never finding one. It's obvious, but it's obviously better to assume there is in this case. For example, I've lost my keys. I've done this many times. Now, I probably wouldn't find them if I assumed I couldn't or they were unfindable. The next idea is that all teach love. This is another assumption that can't be justified. Ask someone to prove it. It'll make them look silly because it can't be proved because it isn't true. Off the top of our head, we can first look at Islam and say, no way. What about killing the infidel? I don't know any other religion that teaches this. Buddhism has nothing to do with love. Not that they preclude it, but it isn't the focus. They're primarily interested in personal peace. Hinduism is seeking peace and blessing from their God through ceremony and sacrifice. Now, I need go no further to make my point that they're not all centered on love. The last assumption is being good. This is their hopeful get-out-of-jail-free card. They want to believe that in the off chance there is a God, He would understand that it was hard or impossible to find the truth. And as a result of their so-called good lives, they would get a seat in heaven. From this, they contrive that God will see it their way and say, gee, wow, you're right, come on in and sit on the couch. It'd be nice to hang out with such a good person as yourself. But being good is subjective. It depends on who is defining what good is. And this is determined by religion and culture. Religion and culture define what is good, and this is one of the factors that define a culture or a religion. One culture says you can kill babies. A religion may determine it's good to beat your wife. And another culture may determine it's bad to spank your kid. So if you're good in your culture, you may be considered bad in another. So we need to find the right God and do well in His eyes. Here we have found that the idea held by our postmodern culture are baseless, motivated by desire to be autonomous from God. It isn't directed by sound reasoning. All religions are not the same. Not all religions teach love as their focal point. Therefore, not any religion will suffice. And as a result, we must figure out who we can trust in regard to religion. To assume there's no answer to this is potentially and eternally dangerous. Now, here's your assignment. Give the argument to 3 people why the statements of the philosophy of postmodernism are wrong. 1, look at this idea. All religions are the same. And 2, all religions teach love as their focal point. So find 3 people and tell them why these statements are not true. The next, describe to 3 new people why being good is insufficient for dealing with God. Tell 3 people why starting with the assumption there is no truth in religion is dangerous. And in episode 4, we will lay out the main structure for the argument in the Venerators.